Hey guys, welcome back to the Kansas Flamingo Chef. Thanks for joining me again today. It's 22 degrees outside today in Wichita, Kansas. It snowed all last night. It's getting ready to snow again right now. And that means it's time to make some soup. But not just any soup. I'm going to make seafood chowder. Now, you could make this just as potato soup or loaded baked potato soup or whatever you want. And basically, that's what it is until we start adding the fish. So kind of think of this video as 3 soups in one. You can stop wherever you're happy. So most of the ingredients you need are pretty simple. I mean, you need to boil some water. That's kind of the beginning of the whole thing. I've just got some water sitting here getting hot, starting to boil with some salt in it. I'll add just a little bit of minced garlic to that as well, and maybe some butter. Now in that, I'm going to cook a whole bunch of potatoes. Now there's a few ways you can do this. If you don't want the skins in your soup, then you want to go ahead and peel the potatoes first, chop them up, and boil them, or boil them whole. That's fine. Personally, when I'm doing this, what I like to do to make sure that I have the consistency of potato soup that I want, I'm only going to parboil these potatoes. I don't want to boil them all the way through. So I'll go ahead and peel them, but I'll boil them whole. And then when they come out, I'll just chop them up so that I have about the size I want. Also, I'm not going to boil them very long. I don't really want to cook these down. I want them firm. Now we're also going to cut up some celery. I've got pepper jack cheese, but I've also got some cheddar cheese. I've got some corn. I've got some green chilies. Again, something I like because I like my soup a little spicy, but you don't have to use it. I've got some bacon. Bacon is a pivotal part of this. I've got some mushrooms, sour cream, regular milk, minced garlic, and you're going to need some flour. So I'm going to go ahead and start by getting the potatoes ready, like the one I just threw on the floor, and then we'll start cooking the bacon, and then we'll start making some soup. I also have a couple pounds of shrimp because I'm making a seafood chowder. I want to show you what I've got going on here. Now I've got in this pot 10 red potatoes. Now I did not peel them 100%. I basically just knocked the eyes off of them, and I put a little bit of olive oil in there and some salt and some garlic butter. Over in this other pan, I'm getting ready to fry bacon, and then we'll chop that up as well. Man, I love the sound and the smell of bacon frying. So I've got a half a dozen pieces of bacon here, and you can see they're producing quite a bit of grease. I am not going to throw that grease away. I'm going to use it, but I'm going to fry this up pretty crispy, and I may even throw it into the oven for a few minutes to get it even more firm. You don't need to worry about keeping this in strips because, quite frankly, we're going to chop it all up anyway. Our bacon's been frying for a little bit. It's nearly done. I've taken the grease off of it and put it into reserve because I'm going to use it. This is about where I want it as far as cooked for now, so I'm going to set it to the side. But what I want to do is check my potatoes. So just grab one at random and pull it up, put it on your cutting board, and just see how easily the knife goes into it. If the knife just kind of gets stuck, it's not ready. And don't try to force the knife through it. Just touch it and see what the knife does. I don't want it to just fall through, but I also don't want it to stick. So we're almost ready. I'll grab one, just double check. Yeah, the potatoes are where I want them to be. They're firm, but they're not hard. So we'll go ahead and take these potatoes out of the water and get ready to do the next step. With that done, we're going to take some bell pepper, an onion, and some celery that I've chopped up. We're going to put that into the hot pan that we've already used. Now I've turned the heat off and I've dumped all the water, but you can still hear it's still hot. Now bring the heat back up a little bit. I'm going to add some salt and pepper. to my vegetables. And I'm going to put some garlic butter in here. Quite a bit, actually. It's the equivalent of about a stick of butter that I'm going to use. And you can use plain butter if you'd rather, but I like the garlic butter. And we're going to start slowly working this together and letting those vegetables cook down just a little bit before we do anything else. Meanwhile, you're going to go ahead and chop up your potatoes and your bacon and get ready to add them to this mixture. I'm going to bring the heat way down. I'm just basically going to cut them in half again and again, and just make some pieces and just throw them into the pot. And just repeat that process over and over again until you get these things chopped up the way you want them. And you can chop them up as small as you like or leave them big. Just keep in mind, they're still going to cook down a little more, so this isn't the actual size of potato you're going to wind up with. The heat right now is on low. I'm going to chop up all the potatoes and put them in here, and then I'm going to chop up all the bacon and do this. Okay, the potatoes are all in there. You can see they're cooking in that butter with the vegetables. We're going to go ahead and start adding some bacon and some bacon grease to this. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just pick up some bacon and start chopping it up however you like it chopped. Got my 6 strips of bacon. I'm just going to throw them right in there. And we're going to stir that together. And I promise you this is going to start to smell pretty incredible. Now if you just want baked potato soup, you're going to stop before I add the seafood. Alright? This is bacon grease. It's what I pulled off while I was cooking the bacon. Yes, I just dumped it in there. That's for a reason. We're going to now add some flour. Now when you add the flour, what you're doing is creating a base with the grease. You don't want to go too fast with this because you don't want lumpy flour. But we do want that base, which will help build this up into a cream soup. Now I just added a ½ cup total of flour. We may want more. We'll see how the consistency looks when we start adding the milk. But for the moment, we're going to start with that. Alright, I'm going to start with half and half before I put milk in here. And this is just enough half and half that it stops sizzling and we have to turn the heat up. We're going to turn that in. Half and half is going to build a much creamier soup than just milk alone. Now if you want to keep it just milk, you can even use skim milk. It just won't be as good. Alright, next I have sour cream. Just dump about half of this container in there and stir it together. And you can see it's going to get thick real fast. Okay? So now we're going to start adding milk. And you're going to want a lot of milk. I don't drink milk, and I bought a gallon of milk just to make this soup. So I'm going to pour about 2/3 of a gallon in there, and then I'm going to stir that together. And don't do what I did and splash it all over you. the stove if you can avoid it. All right, now we're going to thicken it. Before adding more flour, we're going to start adding some cheeses. So I'm going to start with a cup, 8 ounces of pepper jack cheese. And we're going to bring this up to about medium high. Then I'm also going to add about the same amount of some kind of yellow cheese, whatever you like. In this case, I'm using Mexican style blend, which is cheddar, queso, and quesadilla, and asadero. But if you just want cheddar cheese, be my guest. So that's about 8 ounces. And again, we're going to stir this together. All right, kids, if you just want baked potato soup, you're there. All you got to do is let this come to a boil and thicken, add a little flour to get the right consistency as it's boiling, and you're done. If you want to, as Emerald used to say, kick it up a notch, add some green chilies. If you want to turn it into a potato chowder, add some corn, add some blue cheese. And if you want to turn it into a seafood chowder, that's when we start adding crab, shrimp, and whatever other seafood you want to add to it. I'm going to let this raise to a boil. When I come back, I'm going to start adding all of that stuff. I've been stirring this soup to make sure it doesn't burn and to make sure I don't scorch any cheese or milk on the bottom of the pot. You might be able to hear my dog. You can smell it. He's going crazy right now. But you can see the consistency is kind of a cheesy soup, right? All right, so if you're just wanting baked potato soup, you're done. That's it. You can add a little flour to thicken it if you want, but you don't need anything else. But we're not doing that. So I'm going to start by adding a little Parmesan cheese. And you can do this with baked potato soup too, but you are going to change the flavor. I'm also going to add a can of mushrooms. I drained all the water off. And I'm going to add a can of green chilies. And I'm going to add a can of corn that I drained all the water off. And I'm going to stir all that together. Now at this point, before you add the seafood, it is very important that you taste this and see if it needs more salt. If you think it needs some kind of seasoning, I know what I'm going to add, but I'll show you that in a moment. One thing about milk cream-based soups is they just absorb salt like crazy. So don't be afraid to add a little salt. I also want some more pepper. As the saying goes, salt and pepper to taste. I happen to like pepper. I'm also going to add a little something extra. I'm going to put in a little bit of granulated garlic. And I'm going to put in some Greek seasoning. Just Cavender's Greek seasoning. And I'm going to throw in some parsley. And I'll probably I might even add a little bit of oregano to this. I mean, it won't hurt it, and I like oregano in just about everything. So we're going to put a little oregano on there. All right, and then we're going to stir this together again because we don't want it to burn at the bottom. You scorch this soup. And that's a flavor you'll never forget because you won't eat it. And I've heard people say, well, if you scorch the bottom, you can still eat the rest. No, you cannot. It tastes like burnt milk smells, and you can't eat it, and neither will anybody else. All right, we're gonna taste this now. That's the flavor I'm looking for. So I've got a pound of shrimp, peeled, deveined Gulf shrimp, and I've got a can of crab meat, and that's going in there, and it's getting stirred around, and we're going to leave it alone and just stir it occasionally for about the next 20 to 30 minutes. In the meantime, the dog needs out. I'll be right back. All right, so my soup is done, and now what I've done is I've transferred it off of the high heat and set it on simmer on a cold burner. Now the reason for this is I want it to stop cooking, and I just want it to keep those potatoes getting softer and softer. And I'll leave it there for probably about a half an hour to an hour, and it'll be fantastic. But I want to show you what it looks like. So here is the pot. I'm going to switch hands with the camera so you can see. And that is a text message. That is my version of potato, shrimp, and crab chowder. Now again, you can leave the crab and the shrimp out if you just want a potato chowder, but I promise you, it's really good. I'm going to let it sit for a little while, and I'll show you what it looks like in a bowl. So here is the finished product. Look at that. They look amazing. Big chunks of shrimp, bacon, potatoes rather. Let's just get that shrimp. Oh yeah, that's good. Please like, share, and subscribe.